We're ready. We have enough people, I see, so we can get going.
Okay, you're all set to begin. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to call the Monday, October 16th, 2023 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
Here.
Marilyn Fifield? She here yet? No. Deb Converse?
Here.
Catherine Garofoli? Tom Lee?
Here.
Farley Lewis?
Here.
Stephen Robichaud?
Here.
And Lindsay Council's here. I must note that this meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the Chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting and to please make their presence known. Anyone recording? Seeing none, I see Marilyn has joined us. Welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Kate did let us know that she has an appointment, so she may be a little behind. First item will be the approval of the minutes, and that'll be the approval of the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from August 21st, 2023. Everyone had a chance to look those over. If there's a motion.
I would move to approve them, Marilyn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
I have to abstain.
Abstain. Very good. Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Deb Converse?
Abstain.
Kate is not with us. Tom Lee?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. We also have approval of the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from September 18th, 2023. Motion to approve?
I would move to approve them, Marilyn.
I'll second.
Seconded. Any discussion, changes to those additions? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas?
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield?
Yes.
Deb Converse?
Yes.
Kate is not with us. Tom Lee?
Yes.
Farley Lewis?
Yes.
Steve Robichaud?
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. All right. We'll move into the regular business. We do have a bit of a timeline as we have a planning board meeting coming in, so we want to get through these by about 6:45. We have no letter of intent received for this period, so we'll move right to applications. And we have an application that's been received from the Barnstable Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board, requesting an additional $2.5 million in community housing and undesignated funds to replenish funds used and committed by the trust in continued support in response to the ongoing severe shortage of attainable and affordable housing in lower price and rent ranges, and the lack of inventory of homes for sale. We have Elizabeth Jenkins. Will you be speaking to this, Elizabeth?
I will tonight. Thank you, Chairman,
All right.
Council.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I am also joined by Trust Board member Wendy Northcross, member of the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund. That board is made up of 5 members, including Town Manager Els, Assistant Town Manager Clyburn, Finance Director Mark Milne, and Resident Laura Schufelt. And I'm very happy to be here tonight on the behalf of Jillian Douglas, the Trust Administrator, to present their application for a recommendation to the CPC this evening. Just because there are a number of financials, if the board wouldn't mind, I just have a very brief PowerPoint presentation to go through those numbers, and then I can certainly speak a little bit more to the objectives and the successes of this trust if you'd like. So if it's
Certainly.
all right with you, Lindsay, I will go ahead and just share my screen.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Stop me if you can't see that all right. But
Right.
in summary, I think as noted and as Jillian noted last time when she came and presented the application, the trust is seeking an additional $2.5 million of community preservation funds for the preservation, creation, acquisition, and support of community housing. This was allowed, the Community Preservation Act specifically allows CPA funds to be transferred to municipal affordable housing trusts. The town of Barnstable has had an affordable housing trust since 2007, and that is established in accordance with the Mass General Law and with our own ordinances of the town of Barnstable. The CPC has twice made positive recommendations, and the town council has twice appropriated $2.5 million of funds to the trust for their affordable housing purposes. The first transfer was January 23rd, 2020, the second being August 19th, 2021. And since those funds have become available, the trust has expended or committed about $1.8 million of those funds to meet Barnstable's community housing needs. In terms of looking forward and also reflecting on how the trust has used their funds, they have issued a notice of funding availability and continue to have active conversations about budget going forward. Past and potential future uses of these CPA funds include development activities, essentially gap funding to help encourage residential projects, include deed restricted affordable units going forward, pre-development activities, which are available to property owners in the town of Barnstable to determine the viability of affordable residential development on a particular site. And then after numerous conversations at the town council and the trust, the administrator has been actively researching both a first-time homebuyers program and now a rental assistance program, which we would have to find an outside partner to help us administer, but would help income-eligible renters in the town of Barnstable be able to get into an apartment and with the key being to prevent housing instability and homelessness for renters in the town of Barnstable. Finally, continuing to look at the potential for use of town-owned parcels for the development of affordable housing. My department continues to work with Jillian as well as with the asset management department to help identify these parcels that might be candidates. And then in turn have the trust support development on those properties. I'm proud to say that we recently released and just closed a request for proposals for a lot on 149 Orchid Tuit Road in the village of Marston's Mills for redevelopment of that parcel for 2 single-family affordable home ownership units. So looking forward to more work and announcements on that RFP. So in summary, the request to the trust is for a sum of $2.5 million, $1,049,551 from the housing reserve. And I just want to make sure this number is correct for the record because it was at one point in the application incorrect. Just a note on that, but the correct number is $1,450,449 from the budget, from the CPC budget reserve. So at this point, I'm going to stop share. Certainly, I will open up the floor to Ms. Northcross if she has any comments for the trust. We really thank her for attending tonight. And then I'm happy to answer any questions or walk through the application and some of the need that we see for affordable housing in more detail. Ms. Douglas did an excellent job putting that applications together. So I do want to recognize her hard work, and I'm happy to walk through that more closely if you desire. Wendy?
Thanks. I just am here to be emotionally supportive and to tell you that in the years that I've been on the trust, I've never seen such a wide need for housing solutions, and the complexity of coming to these solutions seems to get deeper and deeper. So wide and deep is usually good if you're a river. We would love to be able to continue the work. It's much slower going than I am used to coming from the business world. Time is money, but we have a really dedicated team that's trying to put money on the streets and get it into the hand of developers and create more housing here in Barnstable. So I really do hope that you look favorably upon our application. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Elizabeth or? Go ahead,
Lindsay,
Stephen.
I have two. One of them is just if we could have like some sort of a presentation from the trust put together about kind of like, you know, the success stories, you know, what has worked. You know, obviously it's a lot of money. It's gone to a good place, and I know it's been put to good use, but I know both boards, I'm sure, would love to hear some of that success and get excited about it. Just some real examples of what's worked and, you know, what the trust has done, what they're currently doing, and what's coming in the future.
Elizabeth, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I mean, I think we can absolutely put that presentation together. I would love to see the CPC, the Housing Trust, and the Housing Committee come together for a meeting that really thinks about how all of those groups can work together to further what I think is a shared purpose. If you'd like, I have there are some statistics on the use of the trust funds, but I think, you know, speaking to them, I think more generally in our experience might be helpful. We all know the significant allocation that the trust made to the 850 residences project on 149 that had affordable units in there at 50% of the area median income. That project is leasing up and has applicants. In addition, at the last trust meeting, they made a second development gap funding award for a project that will leverage potentially 15 units, 2 of which would be affordable, 4 of which would be community housing units. So they just made that award at their last meeting. Since the last time I think we've spoken to you, we made one pre-development award in the amount of $50,000 for the potential for 2 affordable units. And again, you know, these are supply side solutions, but researching really intensely the opportunity for more demand side solutions, thinking about how we can provide those direct assistance to residents, either as renters or homeowners in the town of Barnstable. And that's something, again, that we've been researching in terms of programs in other locations, and would be happy to provide more information on those models to this group as well as to the trust.
All right,
Yeah.
That would be great.
That's great. And I know the planning board would love a presentation like that as well. My second question is just, does the mission of the trust change if and when the 10% affordable goal is reached? Obviously, you know, we're hopeful and optimistic that we're getting there and that may happen soon. But obviously, if and when that happens, the work then is not done. You know, there's still so many people in need. So is it business as usual, status quo, or does anything kind of shift or change once, if and when that goal is reached?
I'll take that. I think that's a great question. And I would say that 10% benchmark is really such an arbitrary number that we really have to look at what the need is in our community. And we've only seen it grow pretty substantially in the recent years. That combined with the rapid increase in the cost to develop anything or renovate anything, or purchase anything. It's just astounding. And I don't think you'll see us going away from trying to create more housing. I mean, essentially the trust can also do economic development, and which is really why I sit on that trust. I'm not a housing expert, which I remind everyone pretty continually. We are looking to try to maybe add a few more housing experts to the trust, because that's just the overwhelming need. I really don't see it changing soon, hopefully, but not at $2 million at a bite. You know, I think that's a realistic ask of you, but the need is pretty great. And if we could find funding that was maybe in some cases less restrictive than what we have to deal with the CPC funding restrictions, that would help too.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, can I just add, I mean, I would like to just point out an excellent response by Wendy. I could not concur more. I just think it's a great time to pull out some of the numbers in that application that I think are so powerful, of households in the town of Barnstable. So we think about that 10% number, right? So at least 10% of our total housing units, according to Mass General Law 40B, you know, we strive to get to that number of deed restricted housing. But of the households in Barnstable, 37% of our households are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. When we look at our low and moderate income population in the town of Barnstable, was making less than 80% of area median income, 72% of those people are cost burdened. And a total of 17% of our households are severely cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 50% of their income on housing. So 10% is a good goal when we think about number of housing units, but as Wendy notes, that need stretches so much further, so much more broadly. And again, this is largely focused on those making AMI. But when we think about all of our households, again, 37% of households in the town of Barnstable are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. Those are the numbers that make us, that help us to help drive phrases like housing is a crisis, a crisis for year-round residents in the town of Barnstable. So, even at 10%, I think maybe some of the strategies change, but the mission remains imperative going forward.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Tom.
Hi, Elizabeth. What is the current, in terms of the 10% target, where are we right now? 7%, 7%, or 8%, or less?
We were at 7.2%, and with the increase in households that resulted from the 2020 census, we are now at 6.8%. I will tell you, we are actively, again, updating our housing production plan, which will give us those strategies going forward. And with that, we'll actively update our SHI with some of the new units we have coming online as well, our subsidized housing inventory.
The second question for the follow-up is, I know under the standard conditions, you're trying to get 10% with the development as a affordable housing. Knowing that we are behind anyway, is there a chance to get higher percentage in terms for the affordable housing for the future developments?
There is. So there are several ways to look at that. Number one is if, the goal is to increase your percentage on the SHI, there are opportunities for that, certainly. Again, through the new housing production, we're seeing, when a project hits that 25% number, it certainly can provide a big boost to your SHI. That's probably I would say the common way and the most successful way that towns, get to that 10%. It's typically when they see a lot of 40B development. Barnstable has been different. Barnstable has, instead of reacting to 40Bs, they've really taken the position to use zoning as a tool to make sure that they're seeing housing, in I think the type of forms and locations where they want to see it. So there have been a number of times where the town council through zoning has negotiated an inclusionary affordable percentage above 10% to help catch up to that number. And I do think through revisiting that inclusionary ordinance and potentially increasing that number, we could continue to stay ahead of that 10% mark as our number of households increase.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Just one quick comment. With the COVID-19 and then with all the inflation that we are experiencing, it will make the housing is more challenging in this area and trying to meet the demand. So that's, thank you.
Thank you. And I think, you know, we've really seen that play out at the trust, the need and the difficulty to develop housing, certainly on the small scale level, which we know is what our community really prioritizes when we want to try to encourage an increase in our housing supply, you know, small scale, infill, redevelopment. But we also know that these types of developments and these patterns of development are also much more challenging from a financing perspective, from a labor perspective, and certainly from the perspective of, you know, small developers who are trying to navigate these state and local funding sources. So the trust has been actively talking about revisiting the notice of funding availability that they issued last year to really look at, you know, what's appropriate and, you know, how can you just, you know, can you just set one number for this is how much we want to give out for each unit when all these projects that they're seeing, you know, tend to be so different going forward. So very, very actively talking about that at the trust level.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Very good. Anyone else? Seeing none, anyone have a motion for us here to approve? Tom?
What is the funding split?
I'm sorry?
What is the funding split?
I don't believe we have that on our note, but it is spelled out in the application. Elizabeth, do you have those numbers handy?
I do. Let me bring that back up. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Let's see. There we are.
Go for it, Tom.
Okay. Can I make a motions? Can I make a motions to approve the funding $1,049,551 from the housing reserve and $1,450,449 from the budget reserve to make up a total of $2.5 million.
The budget reserve being the undesignated fund,
right,
in that case.
Right.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the members or questions?
I would just like to make a comment that I made before, that the town really move forward more quickly with identifying parcels that could be used that the town owns. It would be very helpful to do that. And you know, you've been working on it for a couple of years, but it is taking a long time. So I just asked you to do that. And also at the last meeting, Lindsay has suggested a really good possibility is adding to the housing trust. And maybe, what did you say, Lindsay, a real estate person or a developer person, somebody that's a little different and not in the town fold, kind of, with the exception of Wendy, of course. So it would be helpful to have somebody else with an outside perspective. So just for your consideration, Elizabeth, and the board.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Lindsay, I have one question. Was there an amount that we were going to set aside on an annual basis for the trust? And because I realize that 2.5 million has been just done in several big bites, and how much does that impact our total usage for our housing percentage that we need to maintain?
This goes into basically clears out the housing trust amount, I believe, the designated, and the remainder comes out of the undesignated. So this is our annual or semi-annual, if you will, reallocation to the trust. And I think once, if they came up with a couple of big projects, we'd welcome them back.
Absolutely.
So, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield. Marilyn, you're muted.
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council votes yes. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Elizabeth and Wendy. And we look forward to seeing some great projects.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item we have is a revised application received from the Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills COMM Water Department requesting $100,000 in community preservation, open space and recreation funds to enable COMM to commission professional services to evaluate the suitability of acquiring properties adjacent to or within zones of contributions to existing COMM groundwater supplies to meet future needs. COMM will seek partnership with Mass DEP and grant funding through state and federal agencies to acquire necessary properties at the appropriate time. This is a redo of a previous approval we had on advice from the legal department to be a little more specific on the locations. There was a map included in the application that came with this that was provided by the district. And we have Craig Crocker, the superintendent over there here, to answer any questions or go any further into this as you would like.
No, not just based on the legal's recommendations. We revised the application and appreciate your support and moving forward. And thank you for your time.
Any questions on members regarding this? This carries forward the district's, ongoing search for new water. I believe the number is still around 1 million gallons you'd like to secure in new locations, right, Craig? 1 million gallon a day site?
Yeah, definitely.
At least, or maybe 2 500s would be good, however it works. And they would go forward for them. Tom and I have met with Hyannis Water as well. It's an ongoing search to secure these locations. So again, this will allow some of that analysis, similar to what we did regarding the horse farm property on 149. Bring in an expert, take a look at it, see what the impacts are, see if it's suitable to go forward. So good project, and hopefully we can turn up some areas that'll be potentials. Tom.
I just want to make a few comments just for the public's educations. By the time we say yes to this project, it will still take Craig years to come up with a new source and approved by the DEP and be productive. So we are not talking right now to relax some of the water demand. I mean, we know the water demand is keep going, especially when we talk about additional housing, more people going in, and you need more water. So that is not going to be decreasing anytime soon, only increasing. So the only matter for the water district is try to project out what is the future demand that they can meet and serve the customer in the water district. I think this is important. I think in the Cape Cod, we have very good water source for the lands that we have, and we should preserve it. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? Questions, comments, open land? Seeing none, I'll take a motion on approval of this request of the Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills Water District.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for $100,000 and take the funding from the recreation land bank or land saving.
Open space.
Open space. Yep, that's it. open space. I find the less I practice, the less I speak anything of note. Anyway, so I make a motion to approve this application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom Lee seconds. Any further discussions, questions on the application? I don't see any public, so we'll go into the roll call vote. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council votes yes. Thank you very much, Craig. Look forward to working with you real soon, and we'll get it done.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. All right. Moving on, that's our two applications. We did not receive any new correspondence this month, so we can move on to project updates. And there are a few. The Historical Society of Santuit and Kentuit has been referred to the town council for a public hearing and for appropriation. We're continuing to work with the legal department on the CR that's to be granted to the Mass Division of Fish and Wildlife. That I believe has been taken over by our new assistant town attorney. So we're looking forward to getting that to the town council as soon as possible. And our motion previously to approve that was good, according to legal. So that's in fine shape to be teed up for council on that. Work continues on the Kentuit and Santuit Historic Society building. They've submitted some invoices for payments. So we were looking forward to that. And the Unitarian Church in Barnstable Village is also moving along well. They are looking and reviewing the bids, I believe, on the Centerville and Osterville playground projects. I'm still shocked at how much these playgrounds are costing.
Yeah.
Stunning what that material goes for. And we're awaiting the Wheeler Road grant application results. It should be coming in later October or early November. And as soon as that is announced, we'll move that forward to inclusion in a town council agenda. And there's a meeting coming up with legal to get the wording straight for that particular request of the council. Has to meet the grant criteria of the land grant. So we'll make sure that's teed up and ready to go when it comes. Any questions on ongoing projects? Did I miss anyone that should be there? Seeing none, we'll go to member discussion and a reminder of the online conflict of interest training and the open meeting law review that's required. There'll be 2 certificates to submit to the appointments committee through Cindy Lovell. So when you get that done, make sure you get that over there. We did spend some time working on the CPC handbook, and we need a further discussion here and a vote to update and highlight the community preservation application process to include language clearly requiring the determination from the Massachusetts Historical Commission that property proposed for preservation and restoration must qualify for a historic preservation restriction prior to CPC consideration for funding. We highlighted that in red on the handbook pages and realigned some of the steps going forward. So that it was real clear to applicants that this is a major step forward and that this process can take time. So if you've had a chance to look at that and understand the changes we made, we'd like to get your approval of that.
The red highlighting was very helpful, in clarifying and
right.
even making me look at it harder. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I did wonder, what did we decide on? I thought of this after I read through it. On the expiration of contracts, did we make any decision about that, or?
That's going to be coming up. We have that grant agreement, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, we have an approval on that. We have the template that we sent out modified. So what we'll be doing is, if you're a historic project, for example, with this, you'd have to qualify for the historic restriction, and then you go into the grant agreement process. So we put a deadline on that. And then, you know, if that's all in agreement, then there'd be a set date when a project expires, which we have not done in the past, particularly with some of the historic preservation or housing projects.
Yeah.
So this will give us a date certain when that project is to be completed. If there's extenuating circumstances, maybe they couldn't get a contractor to do some work, then they would come back to us and explain the situation, and we can grant them a further extension, but it would be set in time. And we also clarified some of the language on and setting up a town account, because that all goes to Ellen after we finish with it and we move it on. It goes to Ellen, and she has a responsibility of managing the project, set up of an account with the town and that kind of thing. So this will solidify that process and make it clear for everybody. So the first step, go ahead.
We're giving Ellen a raise with this little added.
Yeah.
Well, it will make her job easy, because it will clearly spell these things out to the applicants to know that they have to set up an account with the town. They're submitting invoices, all of those procedures that we all in municipal government love so much that
I know.
We just, you know, love to have these things, but it'll meld our handbook and with those procedures, so people are real clear that, you know, they can't walk in and get a check from Ellen the day after the hearing.
Yeah.
You know, for example, a lot of people don't understand that there's a 30-day appeal period from any approval on any project, really, from the town council. 10 citizens can file an appeal, and they say, well, we don't like this project for this reason. Then it goes into appeal, and that has to be resolved before any funding can be released. So it's a complicated procedure, but we did want to make it clear to applicants that we have these steps, and they need to be followed to keep us in line with the authorization of this funding. So any questions on the handbook changes and the approval of that, if there's a motion?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I thought the edits were very, very clear and very helpful. And I really appreciate that. I think it is often difficult for an applicant to understand why things take so long. And so I think to be able to get a better picture of what the whole process takes time-wise is very useful.
Thank you.
Thanks for all
That
the
was
work.
a motion to approve the changes, was it?
Yeah, wasn't it?
Well, I will take it as that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it, yeah.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded to approve the changes to the CPC handbook. Don't see any public comment. Any other member questions before I call the roll? I will do so then. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes,
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Carly Lewis,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council votes yes. The CPC plan, Ellen's still working on that. We're waiting for some graphics and things on that, but so we'll be getting that to you as soon as possible. We look forward to updating that. The next item is the draft grant agreement that we sent out. And this is the, as I said, the actual formal grant agreement, more of a contract, really. We took the simplest one that we could find. Some of them got pretty lengthy, but we thought really in our case, it's nuts and bolts is what we're after in deadlines. So I think it's pretty simple, and it it has an additional requirement of the execution of this grant agreement for town council allocations for from the Community Preservation Act funding. And it outlines in those procedures and requirements for that grant, as I said earlier. So I think it's a good step forward for us, and it will give us deadlines from which we can work from. So are there any other questions on the adoption of the grant agreement template? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve it as written.
So
Anyone?
moved.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further member discussion? I don't see any public comment, so I will call the roll. Terry Duenas.
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield.
Yes.
Deb Converse.
Yes.
Tom Lee.
Yes.
Farley Lewis.
Yes.
Steve Robichaud.
Yes.
And Lindsay Council votes yes. So that's approved. And thank you very much, members, for that. We look to implement that as soon as we get an eligible project. Next item is the format for the November 20th meeting. Would we like to stay with Zoom? I think that works pretty well for us.
Yes.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Zoom it is, folks.
Yes.
I'll take that. I see no objections. And we had the list of Community Preservation Act funds to be closed. But we wanted you to review those and approve that list if you'd like. Those are first people have been contacted, and they were in agreement that that group of funds could be returned to the proper fund. So if there's questions on that, there's still some outstanding ones I see, but that takes quite a few of them off the list. Finally, for some of them. I want to get the Mills property off there and get that recorded. That's the oldest one on there.
Right.
Any other questions on that? Most of them are smaller amounts, just leftover funding.
Well, I make a motion that we approve in whatever way we have to, taking those projects off, or closed out, I guess is the word.
That would be the word. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further member discussion? Marilyn, do you have a question?
No, thank you.
All right. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes.
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council votes yes. All right, that brings us to the last item, which is public comment. No public here, I see. Any other general discussion? Did I miss anything or anything members want to bring up in general? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Marilyn Fifield,
Yes.
Deb Converse,
Yes, and thank you for all your work.
you're very welcome.
Absolutely.
Tom Lee,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Stephen Robichaud,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council. Thank you very much, members. We'll see you in October. And I also want to thank Tom Lee. I know he has about the busiest schedule, but he also does a lot of help with us going through these documents and making sure they're ready for the group. So
Yeah.
Tom deserves a lot of
Thanks, Tom.
kudos.
And I
Nice
thank
job.
you. I meant to include Tom too, but
Thank you.
Alan.
And Ellen, of course,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
workhorse.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you very much, and we'll see you
Okay.
in November.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.